Welcome, welcome. Hey everyone, hope all is well. Thank you so much for being here today and choosing to be part of this special event, Empowering Impactful Teams, How to Invest in Employee Fulfillment for Organizational Success. My name's Asia Smith, she, her pronouns, and I'm an executive leadership coach and community catalyst at ThinkHuman. I'm tuning in from the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area in the States today, but I know we've got an international crowd with us, so let's connect. Let us know in the chat what your name is and where you're dialing in from today. I'm gonna open up the chat on my end and let's see what we've got in the room with us. Okay, I see Jamie from Louisville. I see Illinois, Brazil. Oops, okay. Lighten up in the chat. Wisconsin, Canada, North Dakota, Romania, New York, Los Angeles, Annapolis, Kansas City, Utah, New York. Okay. I saw Hawaii in there, Dallas, Alaska. All right. Michigan, New Mexico, Texas, California. Okay. Welcome, folks. Good to have y'all here. Welcome to those who just got a shout out and to everyone who's sharing the space with us today. We're all really grateful to have you here. Please take from this conversation whatever you need to serve you and your growth. And please don't let the growth stop there. We encourage connecting with a teammate, a friend, or a loved one, perhaps even a coach or a therapist to talk through any of this so you can take care of yourself and feel empowered to continue the discussion in your community. So we're going to get warmed up in the chat again for today's conversation, since we'll be discussing different perspectives and strategies on how to invest in employee fulfillment. Let us know, what makes you fulfilled? What does being fulfilled mean to you? I still see folks introduce themselves in the chat, so I'll do some more shout outs as well. I see Oregon here, Florida, Long Island, San Francisco, and let's get to the prompt. What makes you fulfilled? What does being fulfilled mean to you? The panel's going to dive into this, but would love to hear from the community. I see what I'm doing is valued in its difference, continued growth, having autonomy and trust, feeling balanced, using skills and collaborating with others for a purpose, making an impact, being happy and hopeful. Okay, having a why. Awesome. Helping others, being in a curious state. Okay, this is all really great. And please continue sharing. It's so great to see folks interacting in the chat and throughout this discussion. If you feel energized to say something, please don't hesitate to share or comment and ask questions. I still see more being shared in the chat, which is amazing. This is great input so far, and your presence and contribution always makes the conversation richer. You might spark a thought for someone in the room, or we all might learn something from what you have to say. So with all that being said, this webinar wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for our fantastic partners and the commitment and heartfelt work of our team and leadership at ThinkHuman to provide a safe and brave space for real conversations in the world just like this one. So I'm thrilled to introduce ThinkHuman and our partners for today's webinar, starting with ThinkHuman. ThinkHuman is a manager training and leadership development company. Our cohort-based training programs leverage behavior science to create lasting behavioral change over time. We support HR and L&D leaders with implementing community-centered and experiential-based leadership programs for leaders at all levels that are built to support a culture of belonging. Toward the end of the webinar, a poll will pop up so you can let us know if you're interested in hearing from ThinkHuman or our partner on this webinar. In the meantime, I'll just put my link in the chat if anyone would like to schedule some time to connect. And next up, we have Blueboard. Blueboard is an experiential rewards platform of choice for the world's most loved employers. They make it easy for companies to give experiential employee rewards, incentives, and gifts from one-of-a-kind to once-in-a-lifetime experiences. So think of skydiving or dining through Michelin stars, chasing the Northern Lights, things like that. Blueboard supports enterprise workforces across 125 countries and partners with hundreds of best places to work to help them celebrate their people in a more meaningful way. I'll put Blueboard's website in the chat as well. if you'd like to learn more about that organization. And so thanks again to Blueboard, ThinkHuman, our amazing panel. You're going to meet all of us shortly for bringing this event to life. So before we dive into the webinar, we'd like to share an artistic moment as we clear our minds and settle in for this conversation. And we hope that this helps you feel grounded and open for today's discussion. So blessing us with her gifts today, folks who joined us for our webinar in May, you might remember her. We have Desiree Jaha. Ancestral utterance, heartfelt journeys, and vocal mastery blend to form Desiree Jaha's sound. Built with care over a decade of singing, songwriting, and performing, a craftsman of song, she shares her voice as a frontwoman, composer, and producer of live, recorded, and digital experiences. Honed in the rigor of jazz and sacred practice of soul, Desiree roots in song as a vehicle to connect and build. I already see in the chat, folks are like, yes, this will be great, and I agree. So to learn more, visit DesireeJaha.com. I'm putting her link in the chat, and at this point, Desiree, I'm going to turn my music down so you can put your music up, and feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Asia. Thank you, everybody out there. It's a pleasure to be back here. I am super excited to share an offering today. Given the context of the conversation that we'll be talking about, I decided to choose a song that's very near and dear to my heart. I think that people in the chat will probably know it. So if you feel so called, please mute, but sing along with me. So yeah, I'd like to sing Lean on Me by the wonderful Bill Withers. So here we go. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain. We all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you don't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'll ride up the road, I'll share your load. If you just call me, oh, call me, oh, call me, call me, oh, call me. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Thank you, everybody.
You are getting rounds of applause. Thank you. You're so talented. Bravo. An amazing start to the webinar. I just have chills, and trust me, you are going to be the person that I call on. So with that, thank you all, my webinar community. So happy to be here. Welcome, my family. I am Hakimia Jackson, Global Executive Coach, DEI Board Advisor, and today I will be your ThinkHuman moderator. And so we're going to keep this energy going. The webinar today is focused on empowering impactful teams, how to invest in employee fulfillment for organizational success. So early on in my career, I may have considered an area such as fulfillment to be soft or for the privilege or not the responsibility of the organization. My perspective on this now has changed, and research shows that 70% of the workforce say that they would consider leaving their current role for a more fulfilling one. Organizations must engage in the whole employee, not just during the hours that they're there spending time at work. Instead, take an active role in aligning individuals' priorities and values with those of the company. Individual fulfillment is not another name for engagement. Be clear on that, okay? It's not just the perks and the free massages and gifts. It's more than that. It goes beyond most definitions of engagement to a broader purpose. As an executive coach and DI practitioner, I define career fulfillment, life fulfillment as achieving one's career life goals and creating a productive work lifestyle that brings a sense of accomplishment, harmony, impact, and joy. The role of leaders in this emerging new standard is critical. Leaders need to attend to employees' fulfillment as an essential ingredient of building winning cultures that provide competitive advantage and talent sustainability in this world of flex. And so we have an amazing group of leaders here today with a wealth of knowledge to share with you all. Please welcome Shireen El-Macy, Director of People and Culture at Blueboard, Dr. Cornell Verdeja-Woodson, Director of DIB at Zillow Group, and Asia Smith, Executive Leadership Coach and Community Catalyst at ThinkHuman. Welcome, welcome, brilliant leaders. So happy to have you with us today. And so as we get started, we're going to break it down a little bit, get down to the basic, not make it hard. Please define fulfillment for the audience here, whether it's personal or professional. Is it different? Is it the same? We would love to hear your thoughts, starting with Cornell.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thanks for having me here. I think for me, fulfillment is so personal. So I don't think that there is a one size fits all approach to defining what that looks like, because what fulfills everyone is different. So for me, it's living my values, it's connecting my actions and my behaviors to those values. It's being in spaces where I can be my full and authentic self, and doing the things that fill my cup rather than pull from it.
Thank you for sharing, Cornell.
I'll go ahead and jump in to add on to that level of authenticity and really feeling as though wherever you are, you can bring your full self to that space, to that situation. And I also agree with what a lot of folks shared in the chat as far as that sense of meaning and impact, and really feeling as though those actions aligning with those values, that it's creating something that's meaningful for yourself, but also bigger than yourself, that helps other people. And so to me, that's fulfillment, the macro and the micro, and how it all connects. That's what excites me about that.
Thank you for sharing.
I feed a lot off of the two of you, so thank you for sharing that. Similarly, I feel fulfillment for me would be to know myself first, so then I can then seek out what I need for myself. And that can look in so many different ways, but it can be challenging to check in with my authentic self if I don't know who that is yet. So I take a lot of time to know what I like and what I don't like, and paying attention to that. So for fulfillment looks like to me, knowing myself, then living out everything I want to do, and then reflecting on those situations to see how they can prepare me for the next experience that I have.
Thank you for sharing. So, you made me think about, Shireen, your definition of fulfillment, like the whole knowing yourself. Do you feel like when you first started your career, you knew yourself and you knew what fulfillment was, or was this something that you just learned over time as you elevated, throughout the corporate ladder?
I have always been pretty introspective. I feel fortunate to have the opportunity to be where I knew I wanted to be at the start of my career. It looks different now, but it was the right place at the right time. I'm a director of people and talent now, but I started at a recruiting agency. And I know what my end goal is. I would like to teach at a collegiate level. And I know that what I'm doing today is good. I know Cornell's like, I know that there will be a time where what I'm doing right now will feed into what I'm going to do. And I trust that every decision I make takes me to where I want to be. So I am fortunate enough to have known a version of fulfillment throughout my whole career. Even on tough days, is a quick check-in to be like, yes, but this is where I need to be to go where I want to go. And so I've always had that.
Yeah, I like what you said, a version of fulfillment. So that's giving yourself, grace to say, hey, this version at this point in time may change. It may not say the same, but Courtney, I see you shaking your head. So go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, no, I share in same idea. Since I was young, I've always known that stage of my life, what I wanted to do. It has changed, since similar to my colleague here, but I've always been confident that this is what I feel like will fulfill me. And I've always been connected to the root of it, right? So like there's the surface. Like I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer at one point, then I wanted to be a doctor. But when every time I changed, the root of what I wanted to do always stayed the same. It was making the world better. It was serving people. It was always representing and supporting historically excluded groups. I didn't have that language back then, but I understood what it meant to show up and make spaces better than they were before I got there. So that root that value has always remained the same. And every time I do something different, it's always embedded in that same value.
Yeah, I love that root connection. And Crystal says, excellent point. How did you respond when you were maybe in environments where they tried to uproot, what that value was, tried to put you in roles where it may have stifled you or just shifted, the impact that you wanted to make?
Yeah, I've always had a sense of agency. Knowing that I have the ability to make decisions for myself, and the universe, the world, people are going to try to push you into different boxes and things of that sort. But I get the ultimate decision, right? To say that actually doesn't serve me. And if it doesn't serve me, I can't serve others. And so, had to make the decision to either advocate for myself and say, hey, that's not fitting me right now. Is there room to sort of talk about this? And if there wasn't, that was a sign for me to make the decision that it was time for me for me to leave. And so, I've always made those decisions and not allow, I think, societal norms of kind of just doing what you're told or just toughing it out to drive me, right? Because if I'm not happy, then I'm not doing my best work, and doing my best work is most important to me. So I've always made those decisions that, helped me get to where I was trying to get to.
Yeah, that going against those societal norms can be hard, but it is empowering when you do and you stick to what you believe in. And so, Asia, I want to bring you into the conversation specifically on just just in your career, how have you experienced fulfillment in a role? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, I definitely sort of mirror Cornell and Shireen in terms of that sense of purpose being that beacon or being that source as far as guiding throughout different experiences in my career. And I've experienced being unfulfilled in new roles that I've tried, and I've experienced ultimate, fulfillment, and even having to balance, different nuances there. And I agree with what's been shared about fulfillment and what that looks like evolving over time. And that's absolutely something I've experienced as well. And I feel most fulfilled when I'm in roles that are a bit more of a hybrid approach, where I'm able to tap in to different talents and different passions. And so I've been fortunate to work at organizations where there's been the flexibility of being able to be in an operations role and also working on events and being a coach and fostering community. And so that's where I've been able to truly thrive. It's where I've been able to explore what I'm interested in and really who I am as my authentic self. To Shireen's point, you have to know that, or at least have some sort of space to be able to explore it. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have that. For some folks, work is that place. And early on in my career, work was that place where I was able to explore who I am, what my passion and my purpose is. It gave me that sense of belonging in that bigger picture. So yeah, I share that to say, especially for leaders at companies, just understanding the humans that are in your workplace and just all the dimensions there and how fulfillment looks different for different folks. And quite often work is that space that contributes a lot to that, whether it's feeding into the fulfillment itself, or you might be playing a key role in helping and shaping that person along their journey, which is really rewarding. So yeah.
Very rewarding. I'm
That's
gonna go.
fulfilling in and of itself.
It
Yeah.
is. It really is. And so Ali asked a question. So in organizations, what are the tips for helping employees feel fulfilled when it is so unique for each employee? Is it discussing and ensuring that the company's purpose is meaningful? What are your thoughts there? This is open to the entire panel.
I was actually going to say it's exactly what Asia just described, right? And what we would call that is a learning organization. It's an organization in which people can try and do and learn different things and find and figure that out. So I thought I saw Ali's question. I was like, Asia, listen to Asia right now. That's it right there. Right?
Awesome.
I can add a little bit to that. I think a lot of humans in the workplace right now desire purpose. And I think companies have a responsibility of clearly communicating that purpose. Why is the organization here? What are we intended to do? And then clearly explaining that and communicating that to their team, and then reiterating it and continuing to weave that purpose through everything that the organization does. When there's a unified purpose, you then have the opportunity to learn from everyone in their unique styles as it relates to that unified purpose. For organizations, it's going to require providing spaces for different groups of people, and that can look different in many ways. For managers, it's very similar to knowing yourself. You have to know your employee. Your questions for one employee and your one-on-ones and your conversations with one employee might look different than the next. So if you have a one-fits-all management style, you're limiting that unique perspective and that unique experience because everyone is different. And it's up to the managers to better understand all the uniqueness of their team to help facilitate that fulfillment as it relates to that greater unified purpose. So ask questions, get to know them. It's more than just how your weekend went. It's how did you get here? What are you looking for? What made you feel good? What was challenging? And when you ask those questions, you start putting together that puzzle of that unique perspective of that employee. Yeah.
And I think it requires slowing down, which is not something that we're good at, particularly in the US context, right? I think globally it can be different culturally, but particularly within the US context, we don't slow down enough to get to know people, to understand how what I'm doing connects to the larger goal. So I think what you're talking about, Shireen, really requires us to balance being, moving fast enough so we're still moving things along, but slowing down enough to get to know each other, connect, and get to those deeper things that really can drive fulfillment and drive people really feeling connected to the space and feeling like they can be themselves in that space.
Yeah, it has to be a priority. You have to want it. And when you do, then you can take the action to slow down. I absolutely agree.
I'll chime into that too, if that's okay, Hakimia. Yeah, and also seeing in the chat the unified purpose piece, that is something that's really powerful, and understanding the different perspectives there and how to highlight all of those and the strengths and really bringing that together to amplify the team from where it already is. And also thinking about the perspective of the managers and what Cornell mentioned about slowing down and being intentional. And for organizations where that might be a challenge, there are probably already some things in place that you're doing where you can maximize that time, like your one-on-ones. Are they more about the task, or are they developmental? And so there are places where you can incorporate these different questions and connection points, or even being intentional in how you survey your employees and gather that data. There's a sense of curiosity that you have to have in your people, the same way we, think about ROI and data sets and all of that. Think about the people on your team, and as far as the uniqueness goes, what do they bring? It's what can you learn about them, and being energized by that. And I also feel even that bigger picture as an organization, that mission statement is so critical, and understanding that's also something that's going to morph and change over time as your staff grows and changes over time, as your product grows and changes over time. And so just this overall feeling of flexibility. We actually have a training session called Flex Your Style at ThinkHuman, where we support leaders in being able to practice the platinum rule. And so the golden rule is fantastic in treating, people how you would want to be treated, but the platinum rule is an alternative that's especially useful for leaders and managers. I think particularly when learning about your people and fulfillment, as far as treating folks the way that they need to be treated in order to feel psychologically safe, in order to feel psychologically brave, and in order to thrive. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to pull in this question here that Maria asked. So how do you balance this need for action, which was going to be my next question, with slowing down? Feels like that's where my org is stuck.
Yep.
And that's most organizations. So it's not just your, I don't want you to feel like I'm calling you out, by the way.
Yeah. I'm going to be really quick with this one. I think that's where the creativity comes in, of thinking about what you're already doing and ways that you might be able to shift a little bit to get the results that you're looking for, or to create more connection. So it might involve taking an hour to, really evaluate your schedule and what you're currently doing with your team, or what your organization is currently doing, perhaps with other leaders at your org. If that's how you're feeling, other folks are probably feeling that way too. So maybe you can do a bit of a think tank, organize a meeting, strategize. It might just take 30 minutes to an hour, and you never know what might be revealed. But sometimes it does take folks who are passionate about the well-being and fulfillment piece at organizations, where if you do feel that you're stuck, to be that one to actually make that first move and help get the momentum going. And so to Hakimia's point, I think so many organizations can relate, and they are feeling stuck right now with 1 minute there's layoffs, 1 minute there's not. We don't know what's going to happen next. And so I think for a lot of orgs, in terms of a fight or flight response, there's that sense of not quite knowing what to do, and not wanting to waste resources on something where it's not necessarily a specific number or a tangible result. It's more of a feeling. It's more qualitative than quantitative. So how do we bridge the gap between the quantitative data and the qualitative data? Yeah.
And I think the other reality that I think causes us to constantly need to move fast within organizations is that we exist within a capitalist society, right?
Yeah.
Where making money is what drives us, or what drives organizations. And so when you live in that type of society, where you've got to, own the market and capture more of the market, moving fast because consumer interest changes every day. And I think that can be a hindrance on actually well-being and fulfillment and belonging, because you're not stopping to quote unquote smell the roses. I think one of the things that is really critical to balancing the need for action as well as slowing down is understanding the full context within your organization. So there's a great change model by Burke Litwin that really helps you look at all the different factors and components that impact the organization, the external world, the internal world, the leadership style, the goal, like all those different moving pieces that we don't regularly think about separately, and understand that if the end goal is to have this more of a balance of slowing down in order to be intentional about what we do and how we support our customers and build for our customers, but also for our employees, it takes understanding the complex organization from a systems thinking perspective to understand what doesn't get us there. and then which of these components actually need to change in order for us to operate that way. But most of the time we do not sit down and think through in that strategic way. And it really does require a mindset shift to actually do that.
Yeah, because you're going against the status quo, right? It feels uncomfortable. It's a part of our professional DNA to actually pause and sit, but sometimes for some of us, Maria, we have to be disruptors and being okay with that. And so thinking about like your leadership philosophy and what that means to you in this space and how you're going to lead when it comes to fulfillment and how you're going to embrace your employees or your talent, I think it's very important. And so, Shireen, I want to pull you in. I see you shaking your head, so I know you wanted to add. Yes, go ahead.
Sure. My perspective is going to offer a little bit more tangible. It's really easy to say, just prioritize, right? When you're working in an area of heavy action, when you have to work within a sense of urgency. And Cornell brings up a really great point, and we have to be mindful, excuse me, of at the end of the day, what is the environment in which we're working in, and and how can we work within that? The way that I can tangibly prioritize is by recognizing, this goes back to knowing self, recognizing my strengths as a leader and taking that time. My strength happens to be communication. So leveraging my strength and communicating through my strength of, am I communicating out that we have to slow down? Am I communicating to my team that we have to move faster? What is that strength that I'm going to leverage when needing to slow down to understand my team for fulfillment or push forward to do action? When I identify my strengths, I'm also identifying my weaknesses, and I leverage my weaknesses by delegating and knowing that if I don't have a strength in something, who on my team does, that I can leverage them to do that. But all of this comes down to knowing myself, my strengths and weaknesses, and then knowing that of my team. Sometimes that means challenging my team to take something on that I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I have to trust that they're going to be able to prove some sort of outcome or provide some sort of outcome. So I'm answering the question of how do you balance action versus slowing down? And my response to that would be really understanding strengths and weaknesses of myself and my team and leveraging those to make action.
I was just gonna jump in. Hakimia mentioned the disruptor bit, and I don't know if folks heard my dogs. I'm a dog mama of two for folks in the community. Even during our prep calls, sometimes they make some noise. They want to be part of the experience too. But yeah, in terms of being that disruptor, and sometimes that's within, like if you're in a role and you feel that it's not fulfilling you and it's not aligned. Shireen, I love what you mentioned just as far as that personal responsibility and accountability of communicating what it is that you need, because folks aren't, they're not gonna know if you don't tell them. And that's part of fulfillment. It's being fulfilled means it's something that you are able to authentically express. And in order to be able to do that at your workplace, there has to be the psychological safety there. And if you're unsure about that, as far as being that disruptor yourself, or if you have allies at your organization, there could be an opportunity to find fulfillment, even in building community in that way, with connecting with other people. And so, yeah, just wanted to, sort of throw that bit in there, because I know it's come up during our prep calls as well in terms of fulfillment and thinking about organizational success is collaborative. So that means the individual needs to have some sort of an idea or clarity, but the organization also has to understand the human experience, and that work is part of that process. And so ideally, the organization is contributing to the growth of the individual and not draining them and burning them out. So it really is a community effort as far as figuring out what fulfillment means to each person, and then that unified goal, or what's unified. And likely, if all the folks are at your organization, it's because they align with your mission. So that's why my dog agrees. And so that's why that mission statement, in terms of what fulfills your organization, what fulfills your clientele, what fulfills your people, just making sure that's a common thread, and that it's something that resonates. organization.
One thing that I do in order to get to know, and particularly in a remote world, again, I can't, it sounds like an easy, like it's so simple, but I think intentionality is key, right? What OKR or KPI, didn't get the attention it needed when without it being a strategic goal that was expressed as necessary and needed by the organization. And this concept that we're talking about is the exact same thing, right? It has to be expressed as a necessary and needed strategy or activity that we engage in. So as a people manager, I have monthly sort of check-ins with my team, aside from our one-on-ones where we talk about your work and how our project's going, things of sort. It's 30 minutes, monthly meetings where we talk about performance, we talk about your career goals, what you want to do beyond this, and what excites you, what new projects do you want to work on that you may not be working on now. And so putting that on the calendar, and my direct team, they love it. And it's something that they've never experienced before. So I think we got to be intentional about it. I know that just sounds like Nike, just do it, but I do think it is some of that. I think we make this harder than it has to be, in my opinion. And it's going back to the basics of human interaction. Be there, be present, ask the questions, make the time.
Yeah, love it.
I love that, Cornell. And I want to add that community piece is important. You're not alone in this. So I'm sure if Cornell's not able to deliver your requests on whatever you need on fulfillment, he has a treasure box of resources, tools, and people to reach out to. What did that song say? Lean on me. So if you
Absolutely.
can't lean on Cornell, you lean on me, right? You lean on that community to get that fulfillment that you're looking for. Asia, I cut you off. You wanted to chime in? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going, yep. And my dog's barking in the back, my dogs are agreeing. This is resonating for all of us over here.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the question lies, right? Because we're talking from the individual perspective on what they can do, but there's also been a battle and conversations on where does it rest? Whose responsibility is it to ensure that their employees are fulfilled? Is it the individual? Is it the organization? Is it both? What are your thoughts there? Let's talk about it.
I just talked, so I'm giving space.
I think that responsibility is both. Right? I think it's the individual's responsibility to understand, am I in the right place? Am I asking the right questions? Am I fulfilling what I want and what is being asked of me? And then providing an environment that is psychologically safe, that does promote growth, that does offer additional learning, and that does allow space for questions to be asked. I'm very fortunate coming into a newer organization. I've been with Blue Board for a year, and I was coached coming right in to make sure I'm asking questions. And asking questions has provided me context to better understand why and how decisions have been made, so that as the head of HR, I can make certain changes, but being mindful of that context. When making those changes, I want to provide space for my team and the employees at the company to be able to do the same thing. The context will drive the decision making. So it's really important for both, for organizations to allow space for those conversations and those questions to be asked without meeting them with resistance, and for employees to lead with that curiosity to better understand, what is this environment and how does it work? And how do I contribute to that based on what I know about myself? So it is absolutely a partnership between the organization and the individual.
Absolutely. I would definitely plus 1,000 that. I think some of the work on conversations around fulfillment talks about that employees actually don't want employers to sort of prescribe to them opportunities of what being fulfilled at work looks like. They want to be able to choose that and do that themselves. And so some of the literature talks about opportunity marketplaces, right? Where there are multiple ways in which you can feel fulfilled. We're supporting you in the following ways, right? Whether that is stretch projects here at the company, whether that is, you getting another degree that there's so many different ways, and we're providing a marketplace for you to choose what that looks like. So I definitely think that it's everyone's responsibility. People, expecting people to do something for you, to me, is not something I've ever prescribed to, subscribe to. I'm always going to do what I need to do for myself. I'm going to advocate for myself. And I do think it's the responsibility of the organization to support that and allow me to not just survive in this space, but to thrive.
Yeah. I know something that I shared earlier about my experience and where I felt most fulfilled. It's been in roles that have been not quite traditional, as far as being a hybrid role. I'm helping different departments at an organization. I might start at the org doing one thing, and then next thing you know, I'm doing something else. And just knowing that there's the opportunity to have a journey, and that the organization that I'm working for is willing to be part of that personal and professional development journey, that is fulfilling. And so that is where it is a blend and really bridging the gap between the person and the organization. And it does indeed have to be a collaborative effort. And so I do feel for organizations where you have that flexibility in terms of those special projects. I love the concept of that marketplace and giving folks the opportunity to have that autonomy. And something that I'll bring up, Cornell, it was a mic drop during a prep call about a sense of control and healthy control. And I'm actually not even going to say too much about it because Cornell, in case you want to elaborate, but that for me, that was powerful during our prep call. And it really does feed into feeling like you're the captain, and that's really powerful in a way that is healthy when you have that sense of confidence in your own journey and that you also have the support, along the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that gets in organizations' way is that need for control, right? When we think about any of these topics, remote work and forcing people to come back into the office, not providing people with ability to sort of do multiple things within the organization outside of the role that we assign to you, right? To me, is often about this need to control the situation and not allow people to flourish and do what they feel they best can do to contribute to the ultimate goal. I think there has to be guardrails, obviously, right? Like, this still is a company. We got to make money. We got to do what we got to do. Here are the guardrails. How does what you want to do support the ultimate goal of the organization? However, though, even if what you want to do doesn't support, how can we help get you to a place where that can be done, right? So that I'm not trying to keep you here. I'm not trying to hold you captive. I want you to thrive and fly. And so sometimes that means supporting you going somewhere where you truly can be doing the work that you want to do. And I want to figure out how to support you. One of the things that I think, and I'll be quiet after this, is that a major barrier, and there are any like L&D leaders on the call, any executive leaders, upskill your people managers, because to me, that is where the biggest roadblock is most often, and I feel comfortable saying most of the time because I've read so much literature on it, people managers are not prepared to be people managers.
Right. Oh, yeah.
They were promoted. They were promoted into those people manager roles because they were good at a skill, but the one wasn't necessarily managing people. And that is where people really start feeling stifled. Their managers not, and we're getting uneven experiences across the company. On my side, people are like, "Oh my God, Cornell supports me," but then you hear from another person, "No, I can't do anything." And so we've got to upskill and put in the resource. So when we talk about partnership, that's the role of the organization. Right? Yeah. Give opportunities, but I'm gonna make sure your people manager knows how to support you and guide your career as a mentor, as a sponsor, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll do this really quick too. I have to jump in just from the ThinkHuman perspective. Manager training resonates. And most of us here on this call have probably heard this before. Folks leave their managers more often than they leave the organization at large. And so understanding that, thinking about how all that connects, managers facilitate the fulfillment piece as far as making that connection. And so it's crucial. It's essential for folks to have these skills. And that's actually why ThinkHuman exists. It's for, organizations where they're going through rapid growth and they have to upskill their people leaders quickly in order to keep that talent. And so they can flourish, and teaching those skills around emotional intelligence that are essential skills. They aren't just soft skills, because it's that more than the technical skills that keeps the people. So, and not only keeps the people, but it keeps them healthy. That's really important here. Keeping the organization healthy, that holistic health, to me, that's organizational success. And it starts with the people, starts and ends with the people.
Yeah.
I would love to add on to this. I feel fortunate with Blueboard. We have 2 programs that exist. That is exactly what Cornell and Asia are speaking to. So professionally, for professional fulfillment, we have a learning and development program. So every April, we go through something called a career development roadmap. And it's an opportunity for the manager to sit down with the employee, and it is a company-wide activity. And you talk through your strengths, your development opportunities. You then talk about your short-term vision and your long-term vision. From there, we have a learning and development stipend that we offer to our teams annually. And based on that development roadmap, you can then make a request to leverage that stipend towards something to upskill a manager, to learn a new skill. We have individuals that are interested in public speaking, so Toastmasters is available to them. So having this learning and development program, Cornell, I love what you said about opportunity marketplace. That's exactly that professionally. Personal fulfillment is something that Blueboard offers as well. By being an experiential reward platform, we are giving and empowering managers and organizations to recognize and reward their employees. Not only are they recognizing them for the good work, they're then rewarding them with an experience. So from there, we have an opportunity marketplace where it's a experience marketplace that once someone has a Blueboard reward, they actually get the opportunity to go into our menu, browse all of our different experiences, and depending on the level of reward, it can get as big as traveling abroad down to learning a new language, starting a podcast. There's so many skills and experiences because Blueboard really believes in the value of outside of work fulfillment and not just having fulfillment within the workplace. I feel very fortunate. I feel Blueboard has all of the right ingredients to leverage fulfillment professionally and personally. So I just wanted to share that because I think those are 2 great tactics to what the 2 of you are speaking to.
That sparked something for me too, for ThinkHuman. Something for a lot of us here is that we have pursuits outside of our work at the organization, but we're all here because we're aligned for the mission. And so echoing, Shireen's point, as far as fulfillment and understanding that it's important to support what that looks like for folks outside of work as well. And that's all about the psychological safety of people being able to bring their whole selves to work. So as a leader and a manager, how are you facilitating that? And so I love that mention there, allowing for all of it and celebrating the whole person as far as who's on your team and yourself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question by Naria. Please forgive my humanity if I mispronounced your name, but Naria says, how does one explore these other projects or outside opportunities or hobbies or departments with the stakeholders feeling fear you're overstepping? So how do you handle that?
So is it, I'm trying to interpret sort of how does the individual do that, or how does the organization create?
If Naria is still on, I think it's how do the individual
seek out other projects without not stepping on the stakeholder who might own that project, I'm assuming. The individual. Okay. Yeah. I think it's about how we go about, the same way we do any stakeholder partnerships, right? Like if I'm interested in doing something, I'm going to reach out to the people whose role would most likely be doing that thing and say, hey, I don't know if you've thought of this before. Here's something I'm noticing. Here's one of the things that I love about working in tech is we have hack weeks, or we have these, what we used to call, I forget what we used to call them at Looker, but we had these moments moments where employees could work on projects that solved problems they noticed that were happening within the company, right? Whether it was a tech project, whether it was an HR project, there was a problem. And so we use hypothesis-driven innovation to go like, here's what I'm noticing. And you were, expected to kind of reach out to the right stakeholders and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Could we work on this together? And what does that look like? And if not now, when, right? Because we got to be mindful of people's roadmaps. So I think this has to be intentional. I keep coming back to that word, intentionality. Intentionality requires us to ask questions. It requires us to reach out. It requires us to collaborate in order to get where we're trying to go. So I think that that's really key.
Curiosity. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Karina, I like what you put in the chat there. You call it grow boarding.
Yeah, everyone in the organization has an opportunity to host a grow boarding session, and this is to come with exactly what you're saying, Cornell. You come with a problem, and you then meet with anyone that wants to join that grow boarding session. We then take time to actually discuss how do we solve this problem, and that way we're getting voices throughout the company and different perspectives, and then we then take that grow boarding session and all of the details that fell within it, and we share it with leadership. So that's an open call for anyone that wants to host any sort of grow boarding session. They have the opportunity to do that. It's pretty cool. That comes down to the organization offering those types of environments for people to share that. I saw a question in the chat. It's not as relevant to this. It may not be, but it was the question of, is HR responsible for these things, or is HR responsible for leveraging and supporting the managers to do these things? I would like to be in a world where HR is a partner to the managers. We're not the face of everything. We're actually empowering the managers to be the face of everything. That should be our responsibility as human resources, is empowering those managers. Cornell, you spoke to it too. Are we upskilling those new managers to actually go out there and do that? We should be. That should be our job, And so I think through things like grow boarding sessions, where that's more of a business initiative than an HR initiative, but we can encourage that for the employees and especially the managers to go out and do those things.
And I think senior leadership has to be supportive of that too,
Totally.
right? Because HR and DEI, we can all be, like, yeah, let's do it. But if senior leadership isn't creating the space and creating the empowerment for people to do those things, and it doesn't actually go anywhere. And so we got, I think our job as HR and DEI professionals is to know our subject matter expertise, to know what helps drive the type of environments we're trying to create, and tell our senior leaders, these are the things we should be doing, and here's how we can get there. But we need you to be the ones that's championing this the most, if this is what we're trying to get to.
And what do you say to those, senior leaders of those companies where they may be financially struggling and they may not be able to do the full enterprise-wide initiative or strategy when it comes to fulfillment? What are some, recommendations that you could provide to them?
I would like to learn. I just want to be in a learning space for this question.
Teresa, no, to me, and maybe I'm being naive a bit, but I think we've gotten such in a space where we think that to build these types of the optimal environment, right, costs millions of dollars, right? And I know there are a lot of services and products out there that cost money and stuff like that. But I really think that when we get back to the basics, they creating types of environments where people can have the time to explore things doesn't always, right, cost a lot of money, in my opinion. Giving people the space to be able to explore a problem and come up with solutions and get into a room and have deep dialogue and conversation and discourse doesn't cost us money, anything but time. And so it's just getting back to the basics of creating that space until we have the money to get a little bit more advanced with it. So I'm not denying that you need money to do some of these things from an infrastructure standpoint, right? And we should do those things. But for small startups, for the economy that we're in right now, It doesn't mean that it's not possible. In a remote workplace, it doesn't mean that it's not possible. I go back to this word, it means it takes intentionality, it takes resilience, it takes you sort of keeping up with it and not allowing it to fall short. How do we embed it into the context and in the culture in which we currently exist?
Right. And it goes back to, I think Asia said it, that mission, being married to the mission and not allowing the process to wear you down and bog you down. But go ahead, Asia. And then after that, we are going to touch a poll. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say really quick to the community, I dropped a resource in the chat. ThinkHuman has a guide called Do More with Less for building out your L&D strategy, in case that's a helpful starting point. And I'll just mention something that I had said a bit earlier in the conversation, and Cornell and Shireen have both also alluded to this. There are probably things you already have in place where it's about being intentional and practicing curiosity on how you can repurpose it, reshape it, to build more connection, to provide more of a psychologically safe and brave space to explore fulfillment. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's more about getting creative with the wheel that you got, maybe driving in a different direction, maybe putting some new features on the vehicle. But if the foundation is there, it's just about building upon that and being intentional about how you connect with your people. So yeah.
So as you build and become more intentional, we would love to know, who would you like to connect with? So you're going to see a poll pop up of our amazing partners for this webinar. So please don't leave now. Don't log off. They've shared their valuable wisdom, insights, and strategies with y'all. So please select, which one you would like to further the conversation with. And so as we close with only 4 minutes left, we would love to hear just the key takeaway that you would like to share out to the community, starting with Shireen.
Yeah, my key takeaways are: take time to know yourself. Take time to understand and clearly ask questions to understand and clearly know the purpose of the organization that you're within. And then take time to learn your team, challenge them to know themselves, and then be creative, like Asia's saying, be creative in finding that connection of fulfillment between the individual and the company.
Cornell, Asia?
I think for me, one of the things I hope really people can consider focusing on is, how do we build trust amongst each other? In a world that is so polarizing, in which we don't trust each other nearly as much as maybe we used to, and we doubt people's authenticity, I think some of the answers to some of the questions around how do we get people to share with us what they might want to be doing that might be different outside of the organization, or that they might be ready to leave and do something else without them feeling like they're going to be let go. That was one of the questions in the chat box. It's trust. Right. One of my biggest things, and I am not going to tear up, but one of the biggest things that matters most to me is that my people, my team, the people who directly report into me, know that I have their back, that they trust that everything I say is authentic. Everything that I do is in the best interest of not only the organization, but also them and their growth. So when I say something, they're not doubting, is he being real? And that takes what? Intentionality. It takes time to build that level of trust. And that, when we have that as a foundation, I think a lot of the other things that we deal with will actually slowly dissipate, because people can learn to trust each other.
Yeah. I love that. We did a webinar a couple months ago on building connection and trust at work. So yes, absolutely, as far as that being a foundation. And if that's not there, more likely than not, folks will not feel fulfilled working at your organization, but that also hinders the possibility of even being able to explore that. And so I think the one term I'll leave folks with is psychological safety and bravery as well. And if that's something that you aren't familiar with, get curious and be intentional about exploring that and building that muscle and seeing ways that you can incorporate that into the way that you lead and connect with others in your organization. Because without that, you can't get to the organizational fulfillment piece, and the individuals in your organization, they might be fulfilled in their own way. But again, we're trying to connect it and bridge the gap, and we're talking about organizational success. So in order for that gap to be bridged, there's got to be psychological safety there for sure. It's got to start there.
Yes, and so with that, thank you all, with all the love and thank you in the chat. People say that this is amazing. I leave you with Know that you're not alone in this process of growth and discovery. Exercise that collective connection, intentionality, transparency, vulnerability, all these amazing things that you've learned to continue to excel on your leadership journey. Blessings to all. Bye.